Hello, fellow toolboxers. Thank you for joining us for episode 278 of an Immigration Lawyers podcast. We're here to improve your life and your practice, getting the best information and with interviews and content. Today's a wonderful interview with a colleague who I've wanted to talk with for a long time, who's one of the best in the game, Rita Sostrin, who knows employment-based, in and out, especially medical kind of stuff. I learned a lot from her on the show and afterwards. So it's a good listen to, especially if you're interested in learning about running your own law firm, which she started her own law firm in regards to learning employment-based immigration, some ideas there. It's going to be something really helpful, I think, that you're going to enjoy for your future. Having said that, I want to ask if you are watching this, wherever you're watching this, like and subscribe and leave a good review for us, 5 stars. It helps the show out a lot to get this kind of stuff, so I appreciate it because that attention helps us create more products and things educational, things like the CLE we're doing on Iranian-based immigration on March 21st. You got to check that out if you're really everybody. So March 21st, 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's going to be a live show, but probably the recording probably as well. But tune into live so you ask questions because Iranian immigration is so unique and so different and such headache really that you got to know if you're going to get Iranian clients because the information you give to them is not going to be the same as anyone else in the world because of the specific challenges that they face. If you want to get access to it one way or another, just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. We have a private community created on a website called circle.so. We'll add you to there, even more content and stuff and information. Just email me first, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com to get that. It's March 21st, the first day of spring, Iranian or Persian New Year. So it's a special occasion of doing that. We're going to talk about a bunch of stats of how hard the immigration is on not a joyful day. So we'll try to do a joyful twist on it. But that's the situation that's happening with that. But we're going to love to have you there. And the show, the CLE is sponsored. It's a California-based CLE provider. If your state reciprocates, you get as well. We'll connect with me and we'll talk about that. But our sponsor is a wonderful one that started sponsoring us this year, which is Cerenade's eIMMIGRATION, a technology company that's been a leader in the immigration space for 30 years. They're a modern practice management software for immigration attorneys and other legal professionals to manage their cases, clients, forms, billing, and much more, all in one place. They have tens of thousands of lawyers and law firms and their teams a part of it. In 2022, they earned the highest rating for immigration software on Capterra and G2. Best value, best ease of use, among other awards. You can do a demo and see it for yourself. Go to Cerenade.com/eImmigration or reach out to my sales@Cerenade.com. Cerenade is spelled with a C to learn about the hundreds of features that they have. Always learning more. You click the buttons. There's so many stuff. Like, oh, I can't believe they have that. It saves time. I don't need this other software I purchased because they have it as part of their regular software. These other things may include that save you time or like e-filing systems. Immigration being the only platform that offers e-filing for all USCIS forms. So stop paying for multiple software and use immigration to handle all your practice needs all in one. So I want to thank them so much for being so kind. And next level they're doing is giving a great discount program for viewers of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. If you use the code Immigration Lawyers Toolbox offer 2023, they'll waive the setup fee, they'll waive a conversion fee from their standard import. They'll give a first month free depending on your team size, and it'll be not depending, it'll be even bigger if it's our team size. So let them know, talk with them, and let them know the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox sent you. They're going to take care of it really well. And they've been such a lovely team to work with over there. They're always very responsive and they really care what they do and they do it as passion, so it's a good situation there. So we're going to talk with Rita Sostrin and have a great time right now. If you're interested in getting involved in the community for Circle, so email me and your bar number. We'll get you in there. And if you want to learn about U.S. immigration for the family-based cases, particularly a marriage green card course that have the best out there, I'm really happy with them. I'm really happy to say we're the best because it's just really comprehensive and there's the support that goes into it with our monthly office hours, one-on-ones. We talk and get to know each other so I can help you grow your practice in this immigration space, starting with the key, the center, the core of it, marriage-based immigration. So if you're interested in that, send me an email at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. We'll have a quick chat and see if the program is good for you. Having said that, let's get the show started. Thank you, Rita, so much for coming on the show. I've heard your name a lot through the years, and your office is close to my house. So whenever I do immigration lawyer search on Google, your name pops up pretty quickly. So Rita and I ran each other at the AILA conference in Las Vegas. I'm like, oh, finally, I got you, and I could ask you to come on the show just to learn more about your practice. You always win a bunch of awards too, because I always see your names with the awards. So I'm like, this is a great practitioner to get to know. So Rita, thanks for coming on. Can you tell us about where you're born, where you grew up, and what led you to become an immigration lawyer?
Sure. I was actually born in Russia and I came to the US as a teen. I lived in Minnesota for 10 years and then moved to LA. But I went to law school because I didn't really know what else to do with an international relations major in college. So that just seemed like the obvious choice. And then after law school, frankly, I just fell into immigration. That was my first job out of law school, sort of by accident. But that's what it was really pivotal for me because I learned the basics there at this law firm in Minneapolis. And that's where I also learned how to do physician immigration, which is what I still do to this day. It's a big part of my practice. So I was there for a couple of years, moved
Let me
to
stop
LA.
right there because
And,
the story of kind of falling into immigration is a big story. Is there a story behind how you fell into it, how it popped up?
you know, it was really more accidental than anything. I was looking for an internship while in law school, and my parents were actually friends with who later became my boss, Bob Aronson. You may have heard the name. He was pretty big. He recently retired, but you know, he's one of the kind of founders, I think, of physician immigration. So he just said, "Oh, just come. You know, you can do a summer internship with me." And then, you know, I ended up staying on after law school. So it's sort of one thing led to another. It really was never a big plan. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But honestly, 27 years later, I love what I do every day. So it really worked out
Yeah.
for me.
I have a similar story. It's a good chunk of immigration lawyers out of the same way. Just kind of got a job randomly, like okay, like it's pretty
Yeah.
good law. So you're
But
in.
I think those of us who are immigrants too, it really resonates.
Yeah,
So you really kind of fall in love with, you know, we understand the other side as well. So it really was the right job for me, obviously.
perfect. So what made you make the move to California from Minnesota?
Well, I got recruited. I met who then became my boss, Bernie Woolstorff. You may have heard of him at a conference, my first ever AILA conference. And he just thought it was going to be the greatest thing if I moved and joined his firm. And I did. It was, you know, I was in my 20s and it was kind of a good time to move on and do something else. And it was a really great move for me. And I was there for a number of years before I started my own firm.
So I mean, it's starting your own firm. There's a lot of emotions that go into it and reasons and stuff like that. What are some of the biggest reasons you decided to take the risk? Because it's a scary thing. A lot of people think about, you know, leaving the comfort of working for somebody.
It was like jumping off a cliff. And you know, it's been 13 years since I've had my own firm, and I have a partner, so it's the two of us.
Did you start with a
Plus,
partner, or
yeah.
did you go solo then find a partner?
No, we started together, and in fact, and you know, it's even a more convoluted story. We met at Bob Aronson's firm in Minneapolis. My partner Alex Gibadze, and that's where he also met his wife, who was my very close friend, who's a senior level paralegal. So they ended up moving to LA at some point. We all worked at the Woolstorff Immigration, and you know, we're lifelong friends since we were in our 20s. So it was kind of an obvious choice for the three of us to start the firm together. So it was initially myself and Alex are the two lawyers, and Colleen was doing everything else. And today we're at about 25, 26 people. Colleen kind of is almost like a third partner. She runs the practice. And you know, the two of us are partners, and then we have two associates, and the rest are support staff. But to go back to your question, it's a complicated question about why, but I think that, you know, everyone kind of who's an entrepreneur, you know, at some point gets that light bulb that it's, you know, this is what I truly want to do. And it was a scary decision, you know, leaving the comfort of, you know, steady paycheck and, you know, a job at a nice firm. But it was the right decision, I think, for all parties at that time. And, you know, it's scary, but nothing good comes, you know, if you don't take a little bit of a risk. So I'm glad we did it. And, you know, it's been a great ride to have your own firm.
And so what is your firm specialize or focus on?
So we do employment, all aspects of employment-based immigration. Alex's field, you know, he's an expert in perm and complex H-1Bs and compliance issues. And my area of expertise are doctors and O1 EB1s, so anywhere ranging from arts and entertainment to science and academia. So between the two of us, we really kind of run, the gamut of business immigration. We do a little bit of family, almost like an accommodation to our clients who happen to marry a U.S. citizen or want to bring their parents over.
Sure.
But we do no removal, defense, or asylum. So it's really mainly business.
What have been the trends you've seen with employment, particularly in physician immigration? Because physician immigration is a difficult one because they set up the system against the physicians and medical workers in general, between the language requirements, how strict they are, and like just the degrees and the hoops and licensing. What kind of stuff do you deal with other than the basic EB-1, O-1, or some NIW that you do that deals with medicine?
Yeah, so the physician immigration stuff is mostly J1 waivers. EB1s and NIWs are very similar to what we do for everybody else, except there's a special NIW for physicians working in underserved areas where they make a 5-year commitment. But J1 waivers is what tends to be a little intimidating for people who haven't done it before. And that's all I learned. Everything I know about physicians, I learned at my first ever job in immigration law in Minneapolis, and then kind of built from there. So the trends on that, interestingly, I feel like it's been the same for 27 years that I've been practicing law. There's no new laws. We're constantly trying to get new legislation. And, lately, I don't think we've seen anything new as much as I'm part of this group called IMG Task Force. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's a group of immigration lawyers. Most of them are AILA lawyers who practice physician immigration. And this group is very active. We have a listserv. We have, it's a members only kind of group. So there's a membership fee to be involved. But we've been involved in lobbying over the years because, we have the funds from our membership fees. So it's a really fascinating, interesting field. Like I said, it could be a little intimidating, but once you learn it, and the group is very supportive. So I feel like people who want to get into it, can easily do that.
Is that IMG as in I as in Island, M as in Mary, G as in George? IMG?
Yes, IMG, International Medical Graduate Task Force.
And when you talk about the J1 waivers for physicians, not a lot of the Conrad waivers for each state kind of
Conrad waivers. So they're mostly government agency waivers. So Conrad would be state health agencies that sponsor those waivers. There's HHS. There are other government agencies that do that. And the trick is to figure out how to use them. There's a lot of timing issues involved between the time that the physician can apply for a waiver, how many are available, all sorts of moving parts.
The J1 waiver situation is so convoluted. You got to really understand just take out the medicine part, just how it works, the limitations, especially for physician J1 waivers. You don't get to use the initial prong of the criteria, the ratio way you would waiver. There's a lot going on with those J1 waivers, and I had one where we did I actually gave it out because we did a humanitarian based one because the person was from a Middle East country, they couldn't go back. But it's such a headache when you hit with that J1 2-year home residency requirement. It's such a nightmare.
Yeah. So I think you're talking about like a hardship or persecution waiver. And those are really tough too. Those you can do not just for physicians, for really anybody who meets the criteria. But right now they're taking a very long time with the USCIS. So by the time you find out, the person might be out of status or may need to figure out an O1 or something else. I know they're challenging.
Now, you had come to Vegas as part of a panel to talk about. I was watching the video of it this morning. I got sick towards the end of the panel, so end of the conference, I didn't go for the rest of it. But I was watching it this morning. You were with 2 other people talking about just the internal scheme of a law firm and growth and all that kind of stuff. How long did it take you to make the decision to hire another associate? Because you already had a partner as a lawyer, and you probably have staff members. What pushed you to want to hire an associate and additional costs associated with that?
Good question. Again, sometimes you just kind of fall into stuff. So we were looking for a paralegal and somebody applied who was a licensed lawyer, but obviously needed a job and was willing to take a paralegal job. And Alex and I just don't believe in that, in hiring somebody who's a licensed lawyer into a paralegal position. So we really loved the candidate, but we said, we're only going to hire you as a lawyer. So we were kind of pushed into it, but it was a great experience. She ended up moving on to a much bigger firm eventually and moved cities. But we've had a great experience with that associate, and that it kind of opened up our eyes that there's so much more that you get by having lawyers on staff that I really think, and in fact, we were just having this conversation that we think we want to hire more lawyers this year, the 2023, thinking about business planning, in addition to the 2 that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it could just take so much more off your plate if you have a lawyer who could communicate with clients and make decisions and sign G28s. It's a big relief having
And also, if you're in growth mode, and I still feel that we are, even after 13 years, we want to continue growing the firm. I think it's a lot easier to grow it with lawyers who can bring in business, who, like you said, who can sign, who can nurture the business that you already have that maybe you don't have time to dedicate the right attention to. I think that's really kind of our next frontier, is to bring in more.
I wanted to jump in for a quick second and talk about one of our wonderful new sponsors, immigrationevaluationdirectory.com. Did you know research reports psychological evaluations can increase an asylum applicant's chance of approval by 78%? Psychological evaluations are hugely beneficial in hardship, cancellation, asylum, and other types of immigration cases, whether with USCIS or the Immigration Court. Connecting with qualified clinicians has never been easier thanks to the immigrationevaluationdirectory.com. Free to use, you can filter the directory by location, language, case type, and more, then review profiles and reach out. The Immigration Evaluation Directory is your one-stop resource to find the best therapist to help. Explore more today at immigrationevaluationdirectory.com and get the help that you need. So, I mean, you kind of talked about my next question, which is how does 2023 look? I mean, they're scaring us about the economy, this and that, but there's an aspect of immigration that's just, it's good to go on. People need immigration lawyers, especially corporate immigration as it's going. I was talking with another colleague who does corporate immigration, and he's sensed a slowdown coming. But what is your perspective? I mean, you have growth mode, you want to hire. What direction do you see the winds going in your experience?
You know, we've obviously been through a number of recessions over the years, and I feel that if you are diversified sufficiently, we can weather the storm. I think our firm is, but even though like I said, our primary focus is business immigration, but within business immigration, we service a lot of different industries. So I do think that high tech is probably going to slow down just because we see layoffs, and obviously companies, it's so much easier for them to hire a US worker, all else being equal, versus an H-1B worker. So I think we're going to see some slowdown there, but I'm hopeful that the entertainment industry will continue. And I do a lot of work with entertainment. Medicine never seems to slow down. So I'm glad to have that clientele. But I think this year, and every year we think about that, how do we focus on the clients that we already have? And kind of nurture those relationships and make sure that we're able to expand them. I really want to focus on that this year. Bringing in new clients, is always a challenge. Obviously, that's always good. Interesting, I attended your panel in Vegas, and one of the things you said really resonated with me, because I thought, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong with my practice. You were your panel was on social media, and the focus was how do you do that? And you said something like, if you're only relying on referrals to grow your business, 10 years from now, that's not going to be sufficient. And that's what we do. We only rely on referrals. So maybe this is something we need to think about this coming year as well, is how do we expand our efforts?
Yeah, because the way I see it is like I've had people come to me who had lawyers they love, but then like they did a diversity visa lottery, they did the consular processing for it, and then they come for citizenship and they want to go to the same lawyer, but they'll go online and read a bad review and like, well, maybe that lawyer's not good now. I should try someone. It's so random. So you got to kind of get them at every angle when it comes to online, print, whatever you can. It has to be a 360 mode that you do it. And so what has been your historic way of one, finding clients? I want to ask about nurturing clients, and like you give gifts and stuff like that. But first off, I mean, a lot of time we do business immigration, you get a company and that company tells another company. Is that how it's been the typical growth with regards to client growth?
Yes, it's either a company telling another company, or an employee sometimes is a high level enough employee. When they switch companies, they want to bring their lawyers. Often it's an HR person who goes from one company to another. But really, our entire business, we don't do any advertising. We don't do social media, which maybe this is the time to start. Our entire business is built on referrals, and that has worked, and we've grown every year since we started the firm. But there must be other ways that work for business immigration. It is, though, it's hard to bring in a corporate client, or we also represent some universities and healthcare networks. Those don't come to you through social media. But like you said, maybe if they're checking you out because of other reasons, because of a referral, they will go online and check you out. And so what's out there online available? So that these are some of the things we can control.
Yeah, what I find is a lot of the employees will find you, and then I'm like, well, it's the employer that has to hire us. So most of the time it doesn't go anywhere, but every once in a while we'll get in if the company's new or they don't have an immigration lawyer on regular. But yeah, it's just everyone's checking you out in different ways. It's so easy to see this kind of stuff, and I think you'd be great on video and audio. You come off very well, so definitely take advantage of it.
Thank you.
I think you'll do pretty well. How do you nurture clients? Like, do you send gift baskets? You send chocolate to the HR? Do you do that kind of stuff?
We do all of that, but really, I think it's a lot of it is just it's a personal relationship. And when you have clients who've been with you over the years, you develop, obviously it's a professional relationship and there are boundaries and all of that, but you also develop in a way some type of a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And I think we also are very focused on customer service. So if you do a good job, if you're a good lawyer who delivers results, if you respond to your emails, if you respond to your phone calls, and you have a nice rapport, I think that's what seals the deal.
Yeah, I think that the aspect of just returning calls in a timely fashion, emails, is like, it seems very simple, but that's the vast majority of all legal issues from all areas of law come from the fact that the lawyers are too busy. They don't respond. That frustrates the hell out of clients. I had someone set a consultation today because they're traveling on an I-751 that's pending, and their lawyer doesn't answer them. So they hired me just to ask me what they're supposed to do. And it turns out the lawyer had kept the original receipt and gave him the lawyer's copy. So I'm like, no, you need the original thick paper.
Yeah.
What's going on here? So it just the lawyer almost sent these people out, and it could have caused them to get stuck outside unless they had contacted me. So it's disappointing, but I mean, that, it's an easy fix too, just being available. But I guess sometimes you get so busy and you get inundated with the phone calls and emails and all this kind of stuff, it's harder to keep track of all that. How do you have your system? You got a lot of team. I just started growing my team just last year, but you have a receptionist and different levels of people that could get to these kind of issues.
Yes, we do. But ultimately, I feel like the buck stops with me. So I get hundreds of emails every day, and I really do pride myself on responding to emails. When we train staff, our goal is to always respond to every email within 4 hours. We have these kind of metrics and timelines that we kind of instruct staff to do. There's certain things that we ship out same day or next day, depending obviously on what else is going on, like when an approval comes in, when a receipt comes in. So these are, when you really are focused on those kind of metrics, I think you're not 100% always, of course, but as long as you kind of focused on that and you try to do that, I think that's the best way to provide a good service to your clients, and clients really appreciate that. I get a lot of comments on how quickly I respond to emails, and I really, really try to work hard to do that. And I know the clients appreciate.
There's an old school method that says don't respond too quickly because then you'll be too available. It's kind of like dating when you're like, don't answer a call right now because it looks like you have nothing to do. But when I started my law firm, I'm like, I'm against this. The people are worried. That's why they're calling you. If you can't get as soon as possible, and it really blows them away that a lawyer is that responsive. How do you keep track of this kind of stuff? You talked about, do you have a lot of volume coming in cases? Do you have any particular system that you use or software that you use to keep track of the case flow and all that kind of stuff?
We use Immigration Tracker, and I've been with them for years from the prior firm that I used to work with, and then when we started our own firm, we started with them. We tried others. I have to say they all have flaws. None of them are perfect, and I don't know. We might be open to changing, but we haven't found anything that is worth, because migration is such a big project. And learning a new system is such a big deal that we just haven't found anything that's worth the pain.
Yeah, it's a big decision. So that's like, want to go climb a mountain when you're like this busy. Do you want to go climb that mountain really quick and come back to switch it? So
Yeah, but it works. I mean, it obviously does the job. It does. It has the forms, and it has the client tracking or expiration date, reminders, all of that. We use it very religiously. Every case is in tracker until a case is completely done. The client is gone. They got their citizenship. We'll never hear from them again. There's always a future reminder scheduled. We attach every email, so we try to keep good records.
One last question is, I'll start from hiring paralegals now, and I have like an associate or two, all this kind of stuff. And I keep reading about having measurements and KPIs and all this kind of stuff. Is there any measurements you use for your team that are important that you check regularly? Just so I can know something I need to watch out for as well.
That is also something to think about for this year for us. We don't have KPIs. I mean, all of it is kind of how I feel about somebody's performance or what I see, but it's all kind of intuitive, which I think I have a decent intuition when it comes to that kind of thing, but I've worked with a lot of people over the years, but it's not scientific, obviously. So I do want to think about what we want to do this year and come up with kind of better metrics and measures of productivity and performance. And I don't have a good answer for that yet.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think you guys might have talked about your panel, but like when it comes to tracking hours, for example, sometimes I'll be doing something when I don't track it. It feels like when I do track it, I'm like, oh my God, I spent 2 hours on this. Now I look at the time; it was really 20 minutes, but it was annoying, or it was like so much thought went into it. It seemed like forever. Or it'll be something that I felt like, oh, I was just 5 minutes doing this, and then I was like, oh, it took 45 minutes. So
exactly, like our perception is sometimes flawed, right? We don't really know. So it is important. I learned a lot from the conference that you and I both attended. Immigration law, we're flat fees, or my firm is, most of us are, I think, but a lot of people still track hours, which we don't, and maybe that's something to think about, just to see what's profitable, what's not profitable, how do we make it better? I don't know. Do you have a good answer to that?
Yeah, that 100%. The first thing I do is track hours. We have flat rate too, but tracking hours is so important. And be honest, like I force everyone else to track hours, but I'm really inconsistent doing it myself because it's like annoying. Like if you grew up I mean, if you got your chops in like one of these corporate law firms or hourly firms, yeah, it's easier. But tracking hours sometimes to me seems annoying, but it's just so important to do because you really tell. Sometimes you'll be a case like, oh wow, we made so much on that because it happened so fast, and then sometimes it takes forever, and that's really the best way to see if something's profitable or not. Or in the rare case, maybe once a year you cancel a fire client or they want their money back. Having that hourly is a great way to know exactly how much you get back at the bar and all that. So I mean, the first thing I say is track your hours. It's so important. We have a crude system of just an Excel sheet in a folder. So whenever someone works on that, they go in the Excel sheet, put their time in, and then it has like how much their rate is, and then multiplies by that time, and it says, okay, did this go over or under? But I'm not that good, and that's always a plan at the end of every month, see what cases were finished and go back and say, okay, how much do we get paid? How much did it go? But I've been so busy, I haven't got around to doing that. But my goal is to have more staff members come in so that I can just focus on this kind of management stuff and keep on this internal stuff. But that would be like a really important thing I would institute for everybody. Like I was only doing it for the associates we have, but I'm going to put it for the paralegals now too, to see how much they're using their time. And especially like some are doing stuff they have higher level paralegals who do higher level stuff. It's like, okay, they're spending too much time on this really basic thing where a new person could do that and learn anyways. And so we're paying them more for doing something a new person could do basically. So
exactly.
It comes really important. It's just extra work and you have so much on your plate already. So kind of it is me pulling myself out of practice of law, which is bittersweet, but it's just the nature of the business operation I'm going towards in the future.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, Rita. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll grab some lunch and see each other. We're so close by. So I'll be in touch. But stay on the show. I'm going to talk a little bit off the recording. But if there's a way people could reach out to you, what's the best way? Website, email, or social media, anything like that?
My email is the best, rsostrin@sostrin.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.